The Guelph Chamber is having important dialogues with key policymakers who influence our business climate. We know that now more than ever, we must elevate our efforts as an organization and as a network of businesses so that we not only help our members survive, but in fact thrive out of the pandemic. With the generous support of CN Rail, we plan to share a handful of interviews with elected officials and key decision makers over the coming weeks, asking them to discuss important issues in their portfolios and reminding them that it's no longer sufficient to have us only manage and consulted as stakeholders, but instead working with us as a contributing partner in their efforts in all of our aims to foster inclusive economic prosperity. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Guelph's MP Lloyd Longfield and Minister Mary Ng, Minister of Small Business, Export Promotion, and International Trade. Thank you both for joining me today. This is a timely discussion about your portfolio, Minister Ng, and how we as a network of businesses in Guelph can contribute and be supported through and out of this pandemic. First, let me pass it over to MP Longfield for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Shakiba, and thank you to the Chamber for having these conversations and continuing your service in the community. This is our second conversation of the day. We had about 80 or so Chamber members earlier talking about their challenges, and now having an opportunity to ask some questions directly to Minister Ng is just marvelous. So thank you for that. And Minister Ng, it's so good to have you back in Guelph virtually. Your commitment to public service has extended well beyond your current position. What you did previously with the Ontario Public Service, Ryerson University, the Ontario Ministry of Education, and being recognized as one of Canada's top performing public sector leaders. The team that we get to work with as members of Parliament have people like Mary Ng on it that really help us as our job requires reaching into serving our local communities and having someone with Mary's credentials behind us, and being able to have her scooped up by Prime Minister Trudeau to work in the cabinet of the Government of Canada is just tremendous. So Member of Parliament for Markham-Stouffville, Minister, it's great to have you here today. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Lloyd and Shakiba. It is terrific to see you. Happy 2021. And that was a very kind introduction, Lloyd. But what I would say here is it is an honor to serve, and certainly an honor to serve alongside you as both my friend and my colleague, and honestly, just an incredible champion for Guelph in Ottawa. We don't get to spend as much time in person in Ottawa as we're all respecting the public health guidelines to keep Canadians and all of our communities and certainly Guelph safe. So I don't get to see you as much in person, but we certainly do see each other on the screen like this. And you know, Lloyd, thank you so much for everything that you are doing. I know how difficult it has been, but you really have been that glue. And I certainly can't do my job without having your incredible efforts locally in your riding, in your community, advocating, but also sharing with us the experiences that are on the ground, which like today at the Guelph Chamber, thank you so much for your work as well, and the enormous work just bringing the businesses together so that we can have these kinds of dialogue, which really is just two ways. And I think that is just so important. So thank you, and thank the Chamber for all of this terrific work, because I know this is what it takes in order for us to keep serving Canadians and Canadian businesses, small businesses, women-owned businesses, Indigenous-owned businesses, but young entrepreneurs, to get through COVID-19 and beyond, so that we can get on that road to recovery. So I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. I know it's going to be wonderful. And before I sort of give it back to you, Shakiba, I want to acknowledge that Guelph is situated on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Métis peoples. And for me, I am here on the traditional unceded territories of the people of the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, the Mississauga of the New Credit nations.
Thank you for that acknowledgement. And again, thank you both for joining us for this important conversation. And I'll jump right into some really great questions that we've curated based on the feedback we've heard from our membership. So as you know, we believe that there are two key imperatives for businesses that must be considered anytime a decision, a policy, or program is made. How will it impact the ease of doing business? And what is the impact on the cost of doing business? So with that in mind, and with the pandemic in mind, Minister, what do you believe are the necessary factors in a business climate that encourages growth, that is mindful of the ease and cost of doing business? What business climate are you hoping to achieve?
Well, that's a really important question, Shakiba. I mean, I would say that that has been sort of the underlining, one of the underlying prerequisites or thoughts as we looked at how to support businesses of all sizes throughout this pandemic. And I'm very pleased to say that that we have been very, very ears to the ground. So whether it is working with my good colleagues who are the Member of Parliament like Lloyd, or directly with the chambers, but quite candidly with businesses themselves, right from the very beginning of this, we said as a government, we're going to be with you, working with you, supporting you, having your back, and we're going to be there for as long as it takes, and we're going to do whatever it takes to help our businesses get through COVID-19. And that is the premise, like that is the foundation. And I think the reason that is so important is because our businesses, in particular our small and medium-sized businesses, are truly the backbone of our economy. They employ so many incredible Canadians. And it is absolutely essential that during COVID-19, with this crisis, this health crisis, that we really were there to make sure that the environment and the conditions, as you said, the conditions for doing business, the cost of doing business is front and center. I mean, it's why our broad-based programs are really, they're broad-based and they are intended to help as many businesses as we possibly can. And they are in, and they really are in the following areas. One, we heard it's really important for businesses to stay connected to their employees. We don't want that break in that employee-employer relationship, which is why we have the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. The wage subsidy has helped, it has helped so many workers stay employed, but it has helped companies keep their employees by helping with the cost of payroll. So that was really important, helping the cost of paying for your people so that even as you're experiencing the downturn of COVID-19, you're still getting that support. The other thing that is really important is making sure that we provide help with fixed costs, rent support. We know that as revenues come down, you count on that revenue to pay for that fixed cost, one of which is the very, very important cost of paying that overhead, which is rent, a substantial cost. So in here, again, making sure that we help businesses, and with the lockdown, certainly that we're experiencing here in Ontario, where we're asking Ontarians are being asked to stay home. Our businesses are closed. Thank you to the businesses who are doing this, because I know how hard this is, but our lockdown support is an additional 25%. So for rent, as an example, some businesses can get up to 90%. In fact, many of them getting 90% help to pay the rent. So that is dealing with the cost of businesses. And then the last thing I would say is liquidity, working capital support. I mean, so whether it is the small business loan or larger size loans or smaller type loans through the regional relief recovery fund, these are instruments that we have just put out there. Again, to your question, helping businesses in this business climate deal with COVID-19. So for many businesses, it absolutely is what I would say the lifeline. They tell me it is their lifeline. For some, it is quite honestly life support, but that is all right. It's all right because what this is intended to do is help our businesses get through so that there's a bridge to the other side of COVID-19, and then we can work together so that we can build back and on that road to recovery. You heard the finance minister announce this in her recent statement just before the holidays, which really is, yes, there will be commitments to help us recover our economy, and that work is to come.
Excellent, thank you. We are noticing, of course, that even in the new year, some businesses are still unable to access some of the programs you've specified, such as the wage subsidy. What is the government doing to address this? And are there considerations on finding ways to ensure that more businesses are included in these supports?
there are always, let me put it this way. We are always open-minded because I think that's what this calls for. I would encourage those businesses, I mean, to talk to your member. I mean, I can't even think of the countless sort of conversations or the late night email exchanges that Lloyd and I would have, or just, you know, that back and forth through your local member, because through Lloyd, we actually understand the particularities. I think that what I have certainly, the feedback I've been getting from both chambers, but businesses themselves, is that the broad-based programs that I talked about really are helping like hundreds of thousands and millions of workers. But is there always something to do? Of course. So I would encourage you to talk to Lloyd, and we are always going to look, because as I said, our interest is to keep as many businesses working and going as possible, because we know how important you are to your local economy and certainly to the Canadian economy. And we're going to have to keep doing this work together. But I would say that the broad-based programs that I talked about, in addition to others that I didn't, that I haven't sort of gone into detail about, are really helping, the small business program. It's over 800,000 businesses, right? I mean, millions and millions of workers through the wage subsidy, as well as the rent fixed costs subsidy, so that we can just help. But there's always, we're always open ears.
One, if I can maybe mention that,
Yes.
I'm seeing a lot. I'm hearing from chamber members. I mean, the businesses that have started during COVID, and we have a great pizza place that's just started, a member of the chamber, Piatto Pizza, on Wyndham and the confusing corner of Wyndham and Aramosa and a few other streets. Trying to get their business going, took some, and not just them, but others. I spoke to a hotel yesterday as well, up in the St. Jacobs area, that went through all the planning process, which takes years, sometimes takes a long time to get through City Hall on approvals and doing the architect's work and all of that, and then just open up in April of 2020. Who knew this was going to be the climate? So they don't have comparators to previous years, and now we're getting into the second year of COVID, so they don't have, they don't have the 2019 comparators anymore, because 2020 was a washout. How are we dealing with the new businesses that are starting and the ones that are entering into the second year of COVID?
Yeah, Lloyd, that's a very, very good question, and I know that you have raised it with me, and that is what we are hearing. So the answer is that we're looking at it. We're looking at how we can support those businesses. I mean, if you think about our programs, what is it really about? It's about helping businesses stay in business. It's about helping them with that support that they need for their workers and for their fixed costs. So I don't have an answer right now, but know that this is absolutely something that we are working on. And of course, thank you with your help, of course, in terms of the inputs. In terms of those that are getting into that second year, you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't think that anyone around the world is able to predict what COVID was going to be. We certainly are seeing a light at the end of the tunnel with vaccine, and Canada's very good position around the vaccine, but that is light at the end of the tunnel, but we are still in that tunnel. So we need to get through that tunnel. So I look forward to continuing to work with you and your members so that we can continue to do what I think is really essential, and that is our businesses going.
Great.
Good. Thank you for giving that example, Lloyd. That's helpful. And we do have many businesses who have nuanced issues, and it has been helpful to be able to address them on a case-by-case basis. Those programs you mentioned, Minister, that information is all on our Kovitz Support page on our website, and we are happy at the Chamber to help direct members to the right member of Parliament, to the right ministry, and to the right resources. And we'll certainly continue to bring the challenges to the front so that we can try and address them. And hopefully it's clear based on our conversation also that if we can play a more proactive role in the development and the execution and rollout of programs so as to minimize and mitigate some of those gaps that are created, to certainly count on us to be able to do just that.
Yeah, that's absolutely terrific. I think that is so important because you've seen us roll out programs very quickly in an effort to respond very quickly. But you've also seen an absolute willingness and a flexibility because the times call for that. We have
Yeah.
not experienced this in an entire, I mean, in my generation at all. So I very, very much appreciate that. And yes, please keep plugging those programs. I know that there are still businesses who are not taking advantage of it. I mean, I'll just point, I mean, the Canada Emergency Business Account, it's a $40,000, well, now $60,000 bank account, $20,000 of that forgivable. I know that some businesses are thinking, well, you know, I don't really need that. I don't really need it. I can kind of make my way through. But if you are eligible, you should go to your bank and you should ask for that. I mean, you will, you know, I mean, you don't repay until the end of 2021. There is that flexibility around, or there is that that forgivability. So I think this is very, very much about helping our businesses get through this. And the programs are there because we want businesses to be using them. So thank you for that, and keep promoting that, if you will, to businesses, even, you know, so that they know that it's there.
Yes, certainly. Thank you. So let me jump now to some other components of your portfolio, including trade and international relations that way. How do you feel the change in leadership in the U.S. will affect our trade relationship with them?
Well, really important question. I mean, inauguration is tomorrow. We will be welcoming, the world will be welcoming, certainly the United States will be welcoming a new president. And Canada has no friend and ally closer than that of the US. And I'm looking forward, as our government is, to working with the new US administration. Our relationship is longstanding, and the U.S. has been a dependable partner for Canada on public safety, on national security issues, both multilaterally as well as bilaterally. And I think that that close relationship between our people are also at the very heart of the extraordinary relationship. It's this partnership of neighbors forged by our shared geography, our similar values, our common interests, our deep people-to-people connections, and our complex economic and security ties. So I often think when our supply chains, I mean, and your community and your businesses will know this very, very well. I mean, with a company like Linamar, I mean, sort of, your backyard, our supply chains are absolutely connected. And when trade works, it is better for both countries and enables both of our countries to create better and more resilient jobs on both sides of the border. We've got, I think, common economic, security, and energy interests. And I think they remain, no matter what the administration is in the White House. And we're going to keep working with the U.S. on border issues, on trade, on the ongoing implementation of the Canada-U.S. Mexico Free Trade Agreement. And of course, both countries have our top priority, fighting COVID-19 to get through this pandemic. We've got to fight COVID-19, and we need to support a recovery that is sustainable, and one that where I think cooperation and collaboration will really demonstrate the strength of this relationship to the rest of the world in a North American relationship. So I think that we have lots to continue to work with and to keep pursuing our common goals of keeping our people safe and of trading and creating those resilient and opportunities to grow our jobs, but also jobs that will help us here in North America do our part, but also be quite ambitious about fighting climate change.
So
I think if I can just interject quickly, you went over the North American Free Trade Agreement that we all worked on. The Prime Minister had a full court press. Everybody that had any contacts with the United States was asked to use those contacts. And now I think it's safe to say that we have a stronger position because of the work of the cabinet colleagues and our government to try to get those deeper relationships into municipalities, into governors' offices, into the businesses. But for small business going digital, there has to be a massive opportunity now that we have these these stronger ties with the United States in many ways in terms of working with our trade agreements.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is why I'm so pleased that Guelph certainly is participating in Digital Main Street, helping our business. I think that there's a real opportunity here. So, and Guelph is doing a really terrific job. We've partnered with Shopify, the federal government, on a Go Digital Canada. So it's a central resource hub for Canadian entrepreneurs to get online. But I think it is absolutely, Lloyd, thank you for raising that. I think it's absolutely essential. We need to help our businesses get digital. COVID-19 has certainly accelerated this. It was there. The importance was always there. Our adoption wasn't as ambitious as it could have been. COVID has essentially forced everyone to be sure to take this, to make this a key feature in their growth. So going digital and creating that capability means that our businesses, our Main Street businesses can be a brick. They can be in bricks, but they also can do business by clicking. And I think the more we do of that, the better we are at helping our businesses not only get through COVID-19, but also be competitive and be a part of, of choices. And there, there's nothing, there are so many incredible businesses in the Guelph and in the region that I think that going digital is really important.
And, speaking of competitive and opportunity that Guelph brings, Canada generally broadly is well positioned to lead the world in clean technology business development. So Guelph, for example, has quite a few renewable energy businesses and initiatives. A couple of weeks ago, though, we did hear you push back against ongoing US tariffs on Canadian solar products, for example. You mentioned the importance of us creating jobs in competitive, low carbon global economy. What's your plan to address this?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me begin by saying that those tariffs are unjustified. That is why we have gone out on consultations, and we don't believe that those tariffs are certainly in the spirit of CUSMA, but also we don't believe that they're justified. So I think those consultations are really important. We have demonstrated as a government that time and time again we will always stand up for our workers. I think that is absolutely essential. But we have a real, I also said that particularly around the solar energy, this is an opportunity for us to really work together as North America. I think we have such capacity and production capability, and given the ambition of the American administration around fighting climate change, but in doing so by also enabling the creation and the acceleration of good green jobs, good green industries. I think that this is an absolute opportunity. We're really looking forward to to working with the Americans on this, but here it's also making sure that those very businesses are supported and that they have the right conditions to be competitive. I think about our Can Export program. The Prime Minister and I announced in November that we've pivoted it to make sure that program is suited to businesses right now during the pandemic, so that where they may have used that that up to $75,000 in funding to get into trade shows or to do some of the work pre-pandemic, their landscape has changed as a result of COVID. So we want to make sure that this program really works for our businesses to go out there and to pursue those market opportunities, but to do it digitally, deal with some of the barriers that might have come up as a result of COVID-19, and to have some support that way. And ultimately and if we think about sort of, the green businesses, so many of them are in the tech space. So, so businesses I have met have used it to secure IP and patents as an example, so that they truly can take their technology, their business, and grow and scale up. So making sure that our tools really, the way I look at it is that I approach and we approach our services in a Team Canada, a Team Trade Canada approach, so that we really are working horizontally with one objective in mind, supporting our businesses so that they can be, so they can get through this on the one hand, but also to be more competitive.
With the Biden administration signing on to the Paris Agreement is going to be a huge boost for our businesses and people like Canadian Solar, as you mentioned, RWDI, the water treatment businesses in Guelph. There should be some massive opportunities if they start working on climate change again in the States.
Yeah.
Thanks for making that connection, Lloyd. Absolutely. So I don't want us to not talk a little bit about some disproportionate impacts the pandemic has caused, and specifically, and I know it's important to both of us, all of us, is the impact on women. Are there specific policies or programs that will be created to remedy both the short-term and long-term implications? And are we tracking progress, and how are we doing in increasing women-owned businesses in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, all of you will know, and I hope all of your members know how important this is to me as the minister that gets the opportunity to lead the women's entrepreneurship strategy for the federal government. It's incredibly important. I mean, I'll just give you a couple of numbers. I have said this before. We can add up to $150 billion to the Canadian economy in just a few short years, just simply by adding more women to our economy. And globally, that's $12 trillion. Like, think about that, right? Adding $12 trillion to a global economy simply by adding women to, to the economy and creating opportunities. I mean, this is why I'm so proud of our inclusive trade agreements. When we say inclusive, what does that simply mean? It means including opportunities for women-owned businesses, women business leaders to have a piece of those marketplaces in a very deliberate way. But this is a whole of government approach that we have taken to helping our women entrepreneurs be successful. This is not new to Guelph. I love that Guelph is very, very much part of our Women's Ecosystem Fund. So you are part of the ecosystem partner, and I'm just looking at sort of some numbers here. I mean, Innovation Guelph has helped women entrepreneurs through this ecosystem sort of funding to provide advisory services, mentorship to women businesses, and certainly help them establish a path forward, especially when COVID-19 first hit. It's really, really important that this work gets done. During the pandemic, we added some additional funding, and I know that Innovation Guelph also was a recipient to that additional funding because we wanted to make sure that our ecosystem partners had the additional support that was needed to help women entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses. If we saw the challenges before COVID, which caused the need to have a women's entrepreneurship strategy in the first instance, COVID-19 accelerated that and exacerbated that. There's not a female entrepreneur that I have talked to that is not wearing a multitude of hats under extremely challenging circumstances. They're raising their family. They are primarily continue to be the caregivers, not only for their children, but for elderly parents. And they are running their enterprises, and they have many, many competing priorities. It is why in our speech from the throne, the finance minister, the deputy prime minister committed to accelerating and committing to a continued effort to build out the women's entrepreneurship strategy. We are committing to universal health, childcare. That is absolutely critical. Absolutely critical. I mean, we are hearing from business owners, from corporations, let alone the women themselves. It is absolutely critical that childcare is there for women so that we can ensure that productivity, that participation. We can't let this participation be stopped because of the other exigencies that are the practicalities of enabling women to be successful in our economy. So we're going to keep working on this. We need to keep working on this. As I said, I think the numbers speak for themselves. And as far as are we tracking and the women's entrepreneurship strategy included three things. One, an ecosystem, which I just talked about, which Guelph is a part of. Number two, direct funding to some incredible entrepreneurs around the country so that they had some direct funding to sort of accelerate and boost their business, particularly those that were focused on exporting. And then number three, actually a knowledge hub. So some research that is being done by the Knowledge Hub that will look at what works, what doesn't work, so that we can actually make better evidence-based decision-making down the road. But we need to keep doing this because I would like to say that the work has only just begun. But this work we just must continue to do. I don't know, Lloyd, if you want to add to that. You could see that the answer is longer because
Yeah,
I feel about all of this.
I know I'm thinking, and I'm watching time. I know that we're near the end. I'm thinking of Minister Ng, when you served on the industry committee and I was on the committee as well. We talked about getting women onto boards of directors of companies and then passed legislation to make that happen, and putting some additional funding into Statistics Canada to measure success there, to make sure that women are getting into leadership positions, as well as now more funding for racialized leaders and the Black Entrepreneurship Fund. And you as an immigrant from Hong Kong coming with your family, I know you've got some passion around that as well. We could go on, but you're right, Shakiba, we have to track success and we have to use the tools that we have as a government through Statistics Canada to give Canadians that transparency and that reporting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you both for those answers. And again, being mindful of both of your times, I'll close off by saying ultimately our goal at the Chamber and across the chambers across the province and country is to create more effective partnerships between governments and business. We want to convene the brightest leaders and give them the opportunity to really meaningfully contribute to the work and the process of government. So please keep that in mind. I'd love to know if there are ways in which you think we can do that better. If there's any last words you want to leave us with. And again, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, I appreciate this so much. And thank you, Lloyd. And thank you, Shakiba. Thank you to the entire Guelph Chamber and to your and mostly to the businesses that we all serve. And I really appreciate that. I think what you've seen from us is this continuous effort to work very closely with businesses. But the Chamber is terrific because we can't necessarily get to every single one, but they are your members. So know that we will continue to work together. I very much welcome your input and the terrific work that you do. I know that you are already off to a good start. I had a good glance at your strategic plan that includes sort of forward agenda. So that's absolutely terrific. Keep doing this, and I just look forward to continuing to do this work and this collaboration together in service of Canadians and our businesses most particularly.
Thank you. Any last words, Lloyd?
Thank you. I wish the conversation could go on. I've got two of my favorite people on the screen in front of me. And thinking also of women leadership in service, in public office, and the Chamber Network, Innovation Guelph led by women, the Business Center in Guelph led by women. It shows that if you unlock potential for women, that we're all better for it. So thank you both for your leadership. And I have a twin sister. Does that count? But seriously, it's great to have women leading our country and leading our chamber networks the way you guys are.
Thank you to MP Longfield and Minister Ng for your time. A big thank you again to CN Rail for their support in making important policy content like this available to our members.